Imagine taking the Zombies mode from Call of Duty and creating a standalone game called Call of Duty Zombies, or taking the Firefight Horde mode from Halo and calling it Halo Firefight. That's what Capcom did with their iconic Mercenaries mode that was introduced in the original Resident Evil 4, and that game is the action-packed mayhem called Resident Evil Mercenaries 3D. This game released on the Nintendo 3DS in 2011 and was quite an impressive game given the hardware it was working with. As the title suggests, this game would encapsulate the Mercenaries mode from Resident Evils 4 and 5, or at least at the time of release those were the only two games that had the mode, and it would throw it into its own standalone title, and for the most part it received a positive reception from the Resident Evil and 3DS communities. But let's jump a little deeper into what this game actually had to offer. The Mercenaries mode in the games that came before Mercenaries 3D was already a mode that many fans came to love, and of course its very addictive nature was something that definitely brought it to the forefront. The Mercenaries mode would pit the player against multitudes of enemies, and the player would have a set amount of time to defeat these enemies and build up a big combo, and this combo would in turn give them a higher score. Of course, the higher the combo, the better the score would be. This 3DS title would take that concept and break it down even further with additional characters, even more ways to play, and in general having more missions and areas to navigate, and this would take areas from the Resident Evil games 4 and 5, making it for quite a unique experience. As for the gameplay, it was actually very impressive for the hardware it was built for. It would carry on with the third person style of over the shoulder gameplay that came from Resident Evil 4 and 5, and it would do this quite well. It would maintain that fast paced action and timer based shooter mechanic, while also still giving every character a unique weapon set to add to that replayability factor and help flesh out the game's content. And of course, not to mention the score based system also helps add to that replayability factor, as the leaderboard system will help you have something to compete against, whether that's yourself or friends, and in general it's always nice to play to try beat something opposed to just having a little checklist. Or at least I feel like generally that's the case if you want to have a game that's addictive and keeps bringing you back. In terms of graphics, while it wasn't running at a very high resolution, it is, once again, this may be a common theme through this video, surprisingly good for the 3DS system. It managed to match modern standards, especially at the time, and it did a very good job in bringing forward that Resident Evil 4 and especially Resident Evil 5 aesthetic, which was extremely impressive. The characters would have a decent amount of detail in them, and of course a lot of enemies. There was a variety in enemies and they were also very well detailed. Once again, for the system, it was extremely impressive. The developers also managed to capture the atmosphere very well for the various locations, whether that was the church location from Resident Evil 4 or the shipment area from Resident Evil 5. And then of course we had the 3D effect from the 3DS hardware that added for extra immersion. Although not perfect, it was a lot better on the newer 3DS models, where they managed to better that 3DS 3D capability. The game also offered multiplayer, which allowed for 2 players to play co-op, whether that was ad hoc or Wi-Fi, and of course adding an additional layer of engagement, as working together with someone for an objective always adds that extra sense of fun and just overall engagement. So it was definitely a smart move for them to maintain this co-op system from Resident Evil 5. The game offered a head-to-head mode as well for a more competitive experience if you were looking to play against someone opposed to working with them, but of course working with them in the more generic mode was still just as fun as it was in prior games. And in general, I think multiplayer in games, even if it is a solo player focused game, adding that multiplayer capability in a separate game mode, or in this case for the entire game, as it technically already is a game mode extracted to become a standalone game, I think it just adds to the game's longevity overall, as I feel like regardless of what game you play, if you're playing with the right person, you're always in for a good time. If you have a 3DS, I would definitely recommend picking this up, as it is a very fun little game to play when you have those short bursts of free gaming time. And this title, while a bit obscure and left behind, offers some classic action and adrenaline pumping gameplay that the fans of Resident Evil and the franchise as a whole have come to love. The updated visuals, diverse characters, challenging missions, and online multiplayer make this game worth picking up if you enjoy fast-paced arcade-style action, or just simply want to pick up those odd releases in the Resident Evil universe. Although with the multiplayer segment, I would be careful. If you are buying it for Wi-Fi play with random people, I would be careful on that side, because I'm not too sure if there's anyone still playing the game, as it is extremely old and not exactly at the forefront of the Resident Evil franchise. But just definitely keep that in mind if you do get it. But obviously, like I said, if you do have someone that wants to play this game with you, definitely both go ahead and get it, as there's definitely a lot of fun to be had here. And with that said, guys, that does bring us to the end of this short little video. Let me know down below if you have played this 3DS title, or if you even knew it existed at all, and I look forward to reading all of your comments. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, it's extremely appreciated and helps out the channel a ton. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button for a lot more Resident Evil content. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.